Okay, I can see the information that the webinar has started. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bartłomiej Janiak, and this is my third webinar for this part of the world, at least. Hi, welcome back. So it means that we've met sometime. Good afternoon. So yes, we'll be using chat, and that's what I appreciate during every meeting. So this interactivity, sharing experiences, and all those elements. So hi from Vietnam. Good to have you here. You can type it. Bolivia, Andrea, Georgia. Good to see you, Madonna. So this is the beauty. This is the beauty. Every time I've been doing like, I don't know, thousands of it in my own experience, but every time I'm really impressed by the magic of how is this thing happening, that there is this thin cable just getting somewhere in the wall of my room. And for some reason, we can connect like English Academy in Vancouver, Paraguay, so good to have you. Good to have you here. Presented by Bartłomiej Janiak. Okay, so this is me, and Fabiana Martinez, the stakeholder relationship manager, is with me, just in case we're gonna have like any Q&A support. So she'll be supporting me. And today is the third one. We've got Luton, Armenia. Good to have you here. Yeah, several years ago, just when you wrote Luton, I know that there is an airport, because when I was moving to England and I was living in Oxford for 3 to 4 months, there was the very first big step in my career as a teenager, or like beginning student. So I had a chance to live there. So it was my first travel alone for the biggest amount of time outside of the country. So PTE Core reading for teachers. So last time we had speaking and writing. So this time we'll dive into these reading questions types that potentially your candidates will take when it comes to PTE Core. So when they will sit an exam at the testing center, they will be dealing with the reading section as well. So in this section, we're going to talk about the question types. We're going to share the teaching tips and the classroom ideas, but please refer everything you hear to your teaching reality and to your experience. For me, like every meeting of this type is like a visit in a supermarket. So when you go down the aisle and you just try on a different pair of jeans, and you are looking for trousers in general, and you try on something and it's not fit, so what you can do is like put it on the shelf and move forward and try the one that suits you most. And this is the same with the teaching strategies. If you think something that, it's not applicable for my students, but then in a few minutes later on, you hear something which you'd like to modify and test, then get it, implement into reality, experiment, because this is all about making the teaching space a slightly different place. If we expect different results, we need to start doing things differently. So I hope I will show you. My aim is to show you how can you implement PTE Core question types within the general English course. Because as you remember from the first session, this is the general English. So all the courseware with the general English that they're using is something which actually fits within the PTE Core. All you need to do is to offer the exposure and slightly modify some of the questions within the course book to have PTE Core questions. And this is the beauty of I really appreciate this meeting and this theme, because reading is something like, I hope that you will never stop reading on your own. Whatever you want to read, if it's science, if it's language development, if it's science fiction, anything, biographies, that you will never ever stop reading. You can stop running, but please remember that the brain and the mind is something which serves us the most, so that you will keep on reading just for pleasure, or reading for education, or reading for self-development. And to start with, there are two questions that I would appreciate your options in the chat. What practices in the teaching reality discourage students from reading? You can take it from your own experience. probably that you might attend some of the lessons as a student yourself, or you might have heard something. There is a time. Angela, if you could explain a bit more with the time. There are long texts, okay, definitely. So imagine that the tutor is offering the text which is too long with the limited time. There is not enough time, okay? So it's like there is never-ending pressure that we need to cram more and more materials within the lesson, and the reading actually lends itself to something bigger and greater with a bigger amount of time. Okay, so the not enough time, the long text, anything else, not interesting topics. There is nothing more discouraging for a person to get a text on something which is not of interest, and forcing this person to do it without providing any tangible argument. Difficult words, they don't have enough vocabulary to understand the text. So the text is a challenge because they fail to get the meaning. Okay, so it's like approaching and giving the text with a higher language, the lack of vocabulary. How can I see the other comments? Hold on a second. Okay, okay. Thanks for letting me know, Angela. And now you will be able to see all the other comments. So just if you could confirm it, if you type it, that you will be able to see the other comment, because I've just changed it. Okay, so it works. So yeah, the long text, the time constraints, the challenge with the level, the pressure, and all the things that can potentially go wrong. That's good. And there is a question that presents the other sphere, the sphere that I want you to dwell in, how to develop students' love for reading. Because whether you believe it or not, you have this huge, tremendous privilege of getting students fall in love with reading, that they will be grateful for attending your classes, because one day they could say that this is the person who actually made me or encouraged me to like and then eventually develop my long-term relation with reading. Ask them to read the things they want. So assume that you will just create the list of the things, making them choose the book they prefer. This is an important point. Thanks a lot. It's not only about the course book. You've got Pearson Mini Readers Library. Then you can actually implement some real literature within the classroom with graded readers to choose the book they prefer. And remember one important element with the growth mindset, like VAR, when you like making the choice should be applicable to all the students. Because I've heard in my shadowing of the lessons, when I was talking with various teachers, that they offer the choice to some part of students, like the weaker ones, thinking that it would be to their benefit. But actually those students think like, okay, I'm a bit of an outsider. Why is it so that the rest has to read this part of text and we are giving the choice? Okay, so when you offer the choice, offer it to everyone. Provide variety of topics. So developing the love of learning and the love of reading, so that they will not be discouraged, they will not feel overwhelmed. And actually, this is probably, if you were to finish this webinar at this point, so that would be probably the single biggest piece of advice we can give. Like, whatever you do, make it in a way that you develop students' love for reading. And the text should be understandable then. Yes, so this is like adjusting the text to the particular level. I think I told you that there is a notion, Erickson notion, effortful learning. So the learning should be just above the current student's level of competence. Not too low, because the low one results in boredom, and not too high, which is the one resulting in anxiety. So just above the current level of competence. That's why GSE scale, for example, is so rich in these granular options, but because you can choose the text just above the student's current level of competence. So moving on and diving in, PTE Core question types. You see the questions, you've got the number of questions, You've got the time. So reading section has its own time. So if you see that there is a reading section with the time, there is this red light blinking, it means that at some point in my exam preparation course, I need to work on time management. Because, for example, in emails, in written structures, they are giving the time, the 10 minutes, so they manage the time effectively. Within the reading question type and the listing zone, the time is for all the questions, so they need to manage time effectively. Like, do not spend too much time or too little time per question type. When you look at the names of those questions, are they familiar to you? Have you ever met them in your teaching career? Yes or no? Quick one. Angela, yes, thanks a lot. So in all likelihood, when you were learning, when you were going through various course books, exam course books and general course books, there are these question types which, and your students, in all likelihood, they will be familiar with majority of them. So this is the strength of exam preparation for PTE Core, that you will be starting not from scratch. Of course, you might get some candidates that they start from scratch, but when you have like intermediate or upper intermediate student, in all likelihood, they will have done some questions in their language, in their language development journey. So the first one is reading, fill in the blanks. The instruction in all the exams, this is the good strategy for the exam preparation course. Just this is something I think students should learn by heart. Just they need to know that they need to follow the instructions carefully. That's it. This is the very first safety procedure that would allow them to actually to give themselves a chance to perform at the particular task. Because if they fail to understand the instruction, they will just move in the wrong direction. So there are 5 or 6 question types. The text length is between 100 to 200 words. That number of gaps, and there is 4 words to choose from. So in reading and writing, it's called reading and writing because it will test your reading and writing skills. They will have the choice of 4 words of the same construction. So it's going to be more like grammar oriented. So the knowledge of grammar and the vocabulary. The way I teach it is like you will need knowledge of vocabulary and grammar anyway in all the question types. But in this one, reading and writing, you will have all the words will be of the same construction. So for example, look, words ending with a different ending or with a different past form, with a different articles, etc. So they should be aware that the word fits grammatically within the space and fits within the meaning of a sentence. The word G in the left bottom corner is just for you to remember that the good preparation course is like you also teach the strategies. And the strategy for some of the question types is that if you are at a loss completely and you don't know what to select, you need to guess because there are no minus points. There are some question types where you should discourage students from guessing. At some points, that the final straw, you don't know what to do, you don't know all the words, no knowledge about grammar, just guess because luck could be on your side during the test. But in general, the recommendation is just like the skimming, general information. So once you select the word, it should fit grammatically and it should fit the meaning of this particular sentence. So basically, once you complete this sentence with a word, the sentence should make sense. So going around, and this is like the teaching tip straight on, if you deal with the text and you deal with, some of you pointed out the unfamiliar words, you deal with the surrounding context of the sentences that are next to each other, and make sure not to leave empty blanks. So these are the instructions. You will find them in the teaching tips. So this is something. This is, let's say, this basic elements that should be taught at some point at exam preparation course, the things you need to do and the things you shouldn't do. So now moving on, what can you do with your general English courseware? So in all the units, you'll have reading text, and the text will be multiple choice, will be just the vocabulary oriented, might be just the text to introduce the conversation, the speaking section, whatever. But since you know that the knowledge of vocabulary and grammar is required for this question type, why don't you change the instruction? And from time to time, you swap the instruction and you work with your students to analyze the sentence structure so that your students will be fully aware of the grammar tenses. Why are they used in a way they are presented in the text? Why are these words next to each other? Okay, what about the noun phrases? What is the logical connection between them? So anything within the reading habit, because you can follow the straight on the instruction from the course book, but you can simply supplement it or exchange it for a, like putting the blocks separately. So, okay, so this text was about A, B, and Z. So now we'll take sentence by sentence and we'll just examine those sentences. Okay, the higher the level, the more advanced dive you can make within the language structure. But this is something they should be familiar with in order to complete the words with the correct blanks. One option is the course book. The second option is actually my favorite one, with the speaking section, with the listening. And this is what you mentioned in the chat: capitalize on student interest. You make a list once when you start the exam preparation course, your favorite hobby, your future aspiration, the occupation you're planning to have, the family, the sport, anything which is of interest to them. That's option A. Option B, you look at the unit that you deal with and you assign the reading basing on the theme of the unit. Okay, so if it's about environment, so you go for these environmental issues. And what you actually do is you assign homework for the students to create a fill in the blanks activity. So you ask them to find a website with related to the theme of the homework. Let's say it's going to be a sport. So they need to find a website. They need to select portion of it. So make sure you've got the length, you've got the number of words given in text between 100 and 200. So in a Word document, it's like 1 second and you see the word count at the bottom. And they need to create fill in the blanks activity. Okay, so they need to take out some words and they need to design 4 columns. They need to add 3 alternatives. Just teach them if you want to have it really close to exam reality. So they need to provide all the 3 words which will be of the same and similar structure. And they bring into your lesson and they exchange those texts with the other students in the pair. So for example, if you had Bartek in the lesson, and if you ask Bartek, what's your interest? I would say mountain biking, enduro, straight on, one of them. So my homework would be just to Google the internet, find an answer to the question, what is enduro? I have 2 options. I search the Google, I search the various websites. I use the artificial intelligence to my benefit and I ask them to create a text on this particular level. But you find text online on the website. You just take the text, you remove some of the words. First of all, looking at my level, let's say intermediate, I would have to work with the vocabulary myself. I would need to understand the text. I would need to remove some of the words, and I would need to add different words so that all the students, the student in the pair would have a chance to go through this fill in the blanks reading activity, and I bring it to the lesson and I just exchange those elements with the students, and they do it in the lesson, and there is peer-to-peer instruction. So the teacher is just monitoring the flow, but actually students, they can evaluate their performance because they have the original text. So actually you're 100% sure that they will know what is the correct answer. Then, of course, the standard element is like you finish with open conversation. And I'm sure you do it. Yes or no? When you finish the reading, there is usually some open conversation and speaking section. Yes. Okay. So my intention for you is to try to do it from a slightly different angle. So these are the questions which are good questions, and they are okay for like elementary, well, not elementary, but let's say intermediate students, upper intermediate. They will engage in this activity. But this is my options. Sometimes you could be slightly provocative and slightly creative and to design a different set of questions which will actually make them think, because this is the beauty of a language lesson. So it's not only about the language, but actually allowing the students to express what truly matters to them and to talk about the topic from a slightly different angle. So like if this hobby were a character in a movie, what kind of personality would it have? So imagine there is this mountain biking enduro. Can you try and describe this character in the movie? What kind of character would this person have if this hobby were a character? Anyone in the chat? Even if you don't know, but you've got the picture of mountain biking enduro, so you more or less can see what is the sport about. It could be the Iron Man, brave fighter, resistant. Okay. So this will be the character which is brave, which is resistant. It could be like moving fast. It could be resistant. Okay. So imagine this hobby could be transformed in the school subject. Rebellious, rot. Yes, a rebel one. So what would be the curriculum for this kind of subject? Can you try and answer this one? What would be the curriculum for this kind of subject? As a teacher, what would you teach? Could be trying to beat all the obstacles we have. So the school curriculum for mountain biking enduro. Okay, what would you teach? Browsing new ideas. I really liked some of the comment. One of the subjects would be not how not to get killed. Okay, how to stay safe in a single place. Exploring nature. Thanks a lot. So then you can ask about the dark side of it, and all the people talk about advantages. Avoiding bears, Angela. Yes, how to avoid bears when you do mountain biking. So this is really important, especially in some parts of America. So people talk about advantages, but you ask what's the dark side of the moon of this type of sport, okay? And then you ask, is there any scenario that you could actually lose interest in something what you just mentioned you appreciate? So just be very creative, okay? So appreciate those standard questions, but become a bit risky in those lessons and ask those deep questions. You can create them on your own. You can ask AI to help you with it. You can use inspiration from various books, but this is when students actually think. This is the first element. And of course, that was the vocabulary building. You've got the vocabulary building. Mnemonic devices, so acronyms, the mind maps. So this is I think I usually to everyone. This is the guy. He wrote several books, and one of the books is about mind maps. The other book is about speed reading. So if you're interested, grab some of them. Some of this, the vocabulary building. When I attended one of the really intensive courses, we were often tested on hangman. So you know the hangman activity. There is a word, you remove the letters, etc. So we were frequently tested like a mini quizzes on the new words from the last lesson in a week. So it wasn't pass or fail, but it was just to test our our knowledge, and I really enjoyed it. It's very easy to design Hangman activities on your words, especially right now when you have the access to wonderful digital solutions. Multiple choice, multiple answer. The next one, 2 tasks. The answers of options 5 to 7, and please remember it's multiple answer. And this is the question when you should discourage students from guessing, because you get minus points for each incorrect answer. For the rest, take a wild guess if you are not sure. If you are not sure, basically don't guess. Okay, Emily, what AI do you use for teaching materials? Experiment. Okay, I would recommend one, but I would recommend getting to grips with AI, just becoming slightly proficient or really proficient in it, and just taking from all the sources and making the best choice possible for yourself and for your language classroom, because this is the tool which is already available. And there is a different session on whether it's like whether we should be afraid or not. My stand is that we shouldn't be afraid, but we should become proficient when it comes to using it, especially, for example, when you design prompts. Depending on the kind of the prompt, the kind of the product you will get at the end. So multiple choice, multiple answers, minimum score, the text, and some of the most typical mistakes is like not following the right sequence when dealing with the question. So some students deal straight on with the text and they do the deep reading, whereas in reality, the instruction comes first, then you read the questions, then you do the speed reading, you do the skimming, then you refer to the questions because there are some words. And if you see several words repeated in the several options, then in all likelihood, you will be searching in the text for the paragraphs which have something similar and they pertain to the similar material. So it means that one of those elements within the text usually presents an answer, because those questions could have similar words, or they could have paraphrased words. So you might have a paraphrase of similar word, and it's also a trap, because of the fact that there is a word in one of the options, it doesn't mean that it's going to be multiple answers, so some answers will be incorrect. So do not guess if you are not sure. So once you deal with the reading habit and you follow the question or the something that I've just told you about, you build this grammar knowledge, this vocabulary knowledge, then you can simply shift the activity and ask your students, okay, to try to discover what's the main argument in the text. What is the author's attitude towards the problem? What are the conclusions that could be taken out of the text, out of the paragraph? Whether the author is trying to compare and contrast all those. So following the instructions from the course books, getting into the grammar, into the vocabulary, or slightly changing the instructions, like living within the text, okay? Just trying to decipher the meaning, because this is something that would be of help when they will be dealing with multiple choice. Cohesive devices, I'm sure at some point of your teaching practice, you introduce students, and cohesive devices will be for them the universal help for majority of question types. So either I know teachers that they print the list of cohesive devices, that they share the list of cohesive devices with the students, they ask them to use them, and there are several options. Scavenger hunt, you provide the text, you provide the cohesive devices categories, and you ask them to underline the cohesive devices. Then there is a chain story. There is a group of students. One of the persons starts the story. The other person adds a sentence starting with a cohesive device, making sure that the story should be at least logical, trying to be logical as much as it's possible. So this is something that can be either found in a course book, but something could be easily taken from internet. And the last one, this is something which I appreciated when I was studying at the English Institute. We had skimming and scanning months, actually. So the instruction, skimming and scanning months. So there was a month where we were tested on speed reading, but it was like a high level C1. And the professor was giving us the long multiple choice text. And from every week or two, she was reducing the time. Okay, of course, we were given the instruction, we were given the strategy, how to do. Okay, and we were tested not only on the correct options, but we were also tested on the speed we were able to read, one of the requirements for this faculty. At some point, you can redesign it and you can do the low level, the SD. So you put the menu on the one side of the wall. You just bring those students to the other side of the wall. There are some slips of paper, and they take the name of a food, and they need to run, and they need to scan the menu and find the price for chicken want. With the advanced students, you do the same with the text. So they need to go through the text and find a specific, they can find a specific element. And just when you deal with the text, this is this reading habit. So you read the text, and either you can just add the summary of this particular text, or you can make it a bit element of fun. You can introduce the element when they read a text. You've got 4 students. Instead of making a connection is not the best from time to time. Thanks a lot for informing me. I really don't know why it happens, but let's see, it's gonna be stable for. Instead of making an oral summary, you ask them to sketch the summary within those groups. So the student will sketch their own paragraph, then they group the pictures together, and the different student is like describing the picture that was created by a different person. And they need to learn, and they need to retell, provide the summary of the paragraph, looking just at the sketch. And hopefully by the end, they will have a logical story in the correct the paragraphs with each other, and to show whether this oral descriptions were correct or incorrect. So either the standard version or an element of fun with a choice summary. If you haven't, experiment, and you can do it with advanced students as well. Those students do enjoy drawing, basically, but no one really asks them to draw from time to time. That's the side, because they are adults. Reorder paragraph, okay? Quite friendly, on condition that the text is not so complicated. There are a number of tasks, 4 to 5 sentences, around 100 word text, and all you need to do is you need to put the paragraphs in the correct order. Each part of this adjectives gets a correct point. Simple as it sounds, and there is like unlimited resources within those teaching reality that you have right now. Because the first element is like you access the digital resources, like in Roadmap, Speak Out, Gold Experience, the business partner, all of them, they have digital resources, and they have access to, for example, listening scripts. And they are in PDF, and they are in Word document. If they are in Word document, it means you can edit them. And you take the listening script, you find like a radio, someone is telling a story, and basically you edit the text, you jumble the paragraphs, and you don't have to print it. If you want to print it for your student, that's okay. You don't have to print it. So you just present the jumbled text on the screen of your computer, on the project, or on a whiteboard, and you've got ready-made reorder paragraph. This is the first. The second element, make use of anything online. And this is like capitalize on your interest as well. What is forgetful auntie's recipe? Yeah, so this is my variation of using online text. With lower students, or actually with advanced students, you can go auntie's recipe. So work with recipes, how something. Because from time to time, remember when you had describe image speaking, they can get a recipe and describing of how to cook something. So you design reorder paragraph online, or you can find the recipe from your book, that cooking book that your grandma gave you. So you've got authentic material. So you capitalize on authentic material passed from generation, or you find it online, or you can ask the AI to come up with a very simple online recipe, and there it is. And this is the instruction for you right now. So you need to put the recipe in the correct order. Two variations. One, you can tell before the activity what's the name of the dish, or two, you don't have to tell it. Okay, so if you could put number one and you can give me the word, the beginning word of the sentence, which is number one? Cracking eggs, begin. Yes, that's number one. Okay, so let's go for number two. Next. Nope. Add any feelings you desire, such as cheese, vegetables. Then you've got hitting. No worries, it happens. This is a reorder paragraph, and we do it really fast, so that's a different story. Then you've got next, you hit on, okay? And then, yes, you put the eggs mixture, and then you cook the omelette, etc. So I made it more challenging, because normally you can give the original recipe, and I decided to implement a part of a recipe from a different dish. So you can increase the challenge. So not only your students are doing the omelette, but they need to spot which sentence is not, it's from a different recipe. And of course, this is the recipe, because we are not doing the soup. So you can do forgetful auntie's recipe. But if you are fed up with cooking, why don't you jump into the sports activity? So this is the bench press. Like you work out at the gym, and this is the bench press. You can find a simple instruction for almost any activity online. And this is the same reorder paragraph. And one sentence is taken from a different sports activity. So what is the first one? What do they think? To perform the bench press. To perform. Yes, okay, you see number two. So you grip the barbell with your hands. That's true. So what about number three? Yeah, you lift the barbell off the rack and hold it directly above your chest. That's true. Number four. As you inhale, you slowly lower the barbell. That's true. And then once you completed the set, rack the barbell back. So you see how many words you usually add into this vocabulary. So you work with the vocabulary, because probably there will be unfamiliar words. And of course, then there is an extra one, which is the one taken from an instruction on how to perform a somersault. And you can redesign the reorder paragraph with the instruction on how to perform the somersault. You can take almost any activity, and if you don't find it online on the website, you ask the AI to provide you with the very simple 7-step instruction on how to paint a painting, or how to build a car, how to write an encyclopedia, anything you need. So capitalize on what really matters for your students. If they are very into environment, you can design the mini reorder paragraphs on how to save the planet. It could sound abstract, but they are dealing with those issues, and you work with the vocabulary. So my name was Forgetful Auntie's Recipe, because I started with cooking recipes. So very easy one for reorder paragraph. The instructions is like, you read the text, you need to find the topic sentence, and this is like you work. The topic sentence provides the information that is not appearing in all the remaining parts, which is obvious, but not for your students. So you need to teach it. And then you identify the logical order. That's why the cohesive devices and the knowledge of grammar will come in handy. And the same as you do the text, that is not reorder paragraph. You can ask the extra question in the lesson so that your students will observe the logical shift between the sentences. So they will not only work on vocabulary, but they will just keep it somewhere in their mind. Why is it so that those sentences follow the order the way they follow? What is the logical connection between them? Why is it so that the vehicle is named it in the second sentence? Okay, because it follows the logical connection. It wouldn't be done otherwise. So this is the extra support that you offer for your students to observe the logical connection. And of course, by the end, just make sure that you read the text again to see if it looks okay. From time to time, you can design it on your own, or you can just take a sample for question type, make a mini checklist activity. Okay, this is actually taken from the official guide on PTE Academic, but this is something very general in nature. So it is applicable to general English. And you can just display this checklist, especially when you teach students which are new to reorder paragraph, and they have a tendency to forget some of the things. So identifying the keywords, then you find the logical connection, then you read the text. So you know there is a logical sequence, because if you read the text and there is no logical sequence, something is wrong here. So spend more time. And remember, it's good to simulate the exam practice, but when you start with the questions, they can get a bit longer, and be okay with it. Because I heard today from my professor that the expert is someone who forgot how long it took him to learn the subject. And that's why teachers from time to time say things like this: why can't you get this thing? It's so simple. It's not so simple. If you have this knowledge behind your back that, okay, it took me a while when I was younger to understand it, probably your patience would be a bit bigger when dealing with students. Fill in the blanks reading. So similar, but a bit different. Okay, this time you've got the text is a bit shorter, and you've got a set of words at the bottom below the text. And so you need to drag the words into the correct space. And at the same time, this might be more vocabulary oriented, but in all of these question types, fill in the blanks, you will need the knowledge of grammar and vocabulary. So my recommendation is you build the vocabulary, but you need to build the knowledge of grammar as well, because this sentence, these words, they need to fit grammatically, and they need to match the meaning of the sentence. That's it. Okay. So fill in the blanks, and the same, you've got 1 point for correct blank. So if you're at a loss, tell your students just guess, because you might be lucky this time, and you will get points. But for the practice, you just take all the words and you work with all the vocabulary, making sure and asking the question, why is it so that this word fits the gap? Why is it so that the other word uh, is not uh, is not the best choice for this one? Because it doesn't match the meaning of the sentence. It doesn't match the meaning of a context of the whole paragraph. So these are the questions that we should be usually going through when dealing with fill in the blanks activities. And in a similar manner as I gave you the inspiration for the instruction in the first one, you take the course book, you take the script, and you remove some of the words, you provide various alternatives, maybe similar in meaning, or maybe synonyms or antonyms, different collocations of the words that do not collocate, or you ask students to perform it, to do it as a homework, and you just demonstrate this activity. You present the text on the projector. This is the one option. Story creation is the same. You design students to design a story, and actually they need to perform the fill in the blank activity by removing the words and adding the words with a opposite meaning, but that they make grammatical sense, for example. That could be the extra challenge. Have you ever done Mad Lib within your class? Yes or no? Have you ever done yes, no, rot? Okay. So a quick, hilarious. Yeah, so we're gonna do the Mad Lib online. So Mad Lib is like you can do it with all the students. With just you can choose the appropriate text. So the Mad Lib is like you don't tell the name of the story. You ask your students to, and we're gonna do it right now. Okay. There are more people, but I will try to do it. So I want you to put the name, the number in the chat and give me the word. So for number one, you need to put one and give me the time. You need to choose the time. For number two, you need to give me the verb. For number three, you need to put three and type of beverage. As you type it, I will be making notes and we'll move on. Okay, so go on. Off you go. Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Orange juice. What else? What have we got for food? We've got oranges, we've got beer. For food, yogurt. Uh-huh. I need something for number five. Okay, five. What's for number five? Okay. What about number six? I need some adjective. Mm-hmm. What about seven? A school subject. Uh-huh. What about eight? Noun. Any noun. Uh-huh. What about nine? Verb, past form. Mm-hmm. And number 10, the same. And the last one, verb plus ing. Going. Okay, so you ask those students to come up, but you've got the text ready. And the name of the story is The Day in the Life of a Teacher. Okay, so I'm gonna read that story to you with the words that you've got that you've just chosen. Every morning, Mr. Pitt wakes up at noon and jumps to the kitchen to make a cup of beer. Mhm. After a quick breakfast of yogurt, he goes to Disneyland, where he teaches math. The first day where he teaches old students. Where he teaches old students. The first class of the day is math, where students eagerly learn about X. During the lesson, one student bought and everyone drowned. Mr. Pitt calmly handled the situation by going out. Okay. So this is the Mad Lib activity. So you perform it, you can do it in pairs, you can do it like a single class activity, and usually the story becomes a bit abstract. There is an element of fun, there is an element of paradox. You can even provide only the verbs, nouns, and adjectives, which will be a huge paradox within the story, but they read it and they need to try to make sense of it. So this is like a gentle introduction to fill in the blanks. They work with the anxiety, they work with the stress, they work with the grammar, they work with the vocabulary, and then when they read the text, they try to decide which text is the funniest. They need to work. They see how the verbs change the meaning of the whole story. They see how vocabulary change the meaning of the whole story. And if you put Mad Lib activities in internet, you can get some books with the stories which are already prepared. I actually know that, for example, what you can do is like for a simple Mad Lib activity, you take the instruction from the course book, just the instruction of reading activity, and you can take this instruction and transform it into this Mad Lib activity, and it will work fine. So it's not going to be like read the paragraph in the correct order and select, but it's going to be read the monkey in the correct order and kill the last sentence, for example. So this is the element when you introduce a bit of energy within the classroom reality. For the reading, fill in the blanks. So you read around the blank. So this is where you get into this activity that you prepared. So you've taken the listening script, the story, you've taken some of the words, you added 3 extra words, and then you look at the whole sentence, the knowledge of collocation, all those collocation lists, variety, and just they need to be sure why other words are not correct. And the final one is single answer. So the same, remember we had multiple choice, multiple answer, and you've got multiple choice, single answer. So they can guess here if they cannot get the meaning because there are no minus points. Basically, you work in a similar way when you work with other multiple choice. So you redesign, you ask the students, what is the author's attitude? Is he criticizing? Is he supporting the idea? Because sometimes in multiple choice single answer, the question will be asking about, for example, author's attitude towards a presented problem. So you work with the meaning, not so much with grammar and vocabulary. Mnemonic devices, this is something that I'm not gonna spend. So my word of advice is like, you type mnemonic devices and you bring the selection of mnemonic devices like acronyms, storytelling, imagery, and you just introduce them bit by bit and let students decide which which mnemonic device works best for them. Okay, so this is how you work with the, because on the one hand, you can ask them to learn the vocabulary by heart, but on the other hand, you can implement emotions and just ask them to design a sentence, but the sentence that is true for them and the sentence with a new word that is associated with the positive event in their life. Because when I remember my courses, we were asked to design sentences out of the blue. The sentences that basically had a new word in the context. And that was okay. But probably if my teacher told us, make those sentences true for your life, make those sentences reflect your reality, my knowledge retention would be a bit bigger. Okay? So the final instructions, the same. You read the instruction, you read the prompt, you review the options, and you scan for specific information. That's why skimming and scanning week are good to introduce for general reading practice. And the final element, just a closing one. So it's not only about developing your students, but it's also about becoming a slightly different version of a teacher. So I'm going to leave with you 3 questions, and I would appreciate your responses within the chat. Maybe you know something, maybe you have something. Is there something you'd like to do in your reading class but have avoided it for some reason? Hmm? Hmm. You can just copy those sentence questions because they are not so easy. They are not so easy. Sometimes they require a bit of thinking. But is this something that you would like to do, but you have avoided it for some reason? Because, for example, you were afraid that it will not work, or you were afraid that the lesson will be foolish. I don't know. But is there something? Hmm? So I didn't give any reading literature to my students because I was afraid that they will not like it. Uh, hmm? Emily, thanks a lot. Yeah, the difficulty of the text was higher than the class level. From time to time, you can try and bring something higher, but make sure to have the knowledge how to work with the higher text, just to show them that at this point, they can manage to some extent more difficult text. Okay, from time to time. In most cases, you just offer the similar one, the webinar one. Okay, the next question. If you were to attend your reading class as a student, what would you expect from the teacher? Imagine that you're the student of your own reading class. What would you expect from the teacher? More engaging. Thanks a lot. Explanation. What else? Engaging activities. Anna. Supporting. Reading aloud. So remember this question. Take a screenshot or just take note of it and just stick it on the wall. So if you would expect it from your teacher, so it means that these are your values that you should bring to your class. Okay. And you should monitor yourself. Every several weeks, come back to this question and ask this question again. Okay. If I am to attend my own class, what would I expect? And the last question, the same, not an easy one. How can you create a classroom environment that encourages risk-taking and curiosity in reading? How can you create this type of environment that your students would be brave enough to take risks and would be curious in reading? Judgment-free, Emily, okay? You could have judgment, beautiful advice. From time to time, you can have judgment-free reading activities. No points is assigned. We don't talk about correct or incorrect. We talk about the meaning of a text, for example. Okay, anything else? Bring realia-related text to be read. Okay, so for example, Anna, when I see your message, I would say for the next lesson, here is the news that appeared in the newspaper. And this is the text we're going to be working on. Because I want you to remember that your reading skills will help you not only in exam, but it will help you in life to become more knowledgeable. And you work with the real deal, okay? Build a trusting circle, okay? So allow students, this is called this introduce psychological safety, where your students can openly say that they made a mistake. Okay. Share experiences. Yeah. So for sharing experiencing Dania, this is something to remember. When you present a student like a best performer, do not present the student as mastery model, but present the student as coping model. So let the student explain to the rest of the class how did he do, what did he do in order to get to the desired score. Okay, what were the strategies he implemented? Okay, so that this best performer will teach others how to cope. It's not only about shining. So these are the questions, and remember those questions and come back to these questions from time to time. And I hope that once you found some inspiration within this reading reality, whether it was forgetful auntie's recipe, whether it was the fill in the blanks activities, whether it was designing the story, whether it was the scavenger hunt for cohesive devices, whether it was mnemonic devices, everything that stayed with you, remember about it, get into practice. The best you can do for yourself is to bring those skills within the lesson. And at this knowledge, be open with starting to run the exam preparation course, because you have the skills, you have the knowledge. You need to be, like someone wrote in the very beginning with this MTB Enduro, brave, resistant, courageous, and rebellious from time to time, just to ask these deeper questions to your students. Thanks a lot. Thank you for being with us. If you need more information about PTE Core, just go straight to the website and you can download the variety of materials with the score guide, with the test tips, um, and you can just get knowledgeable and become expert in this field. And we are meeting one more time for this listening activity. So we'll go through the listening question types. See you next week. Thanks a lot. Fabiana shared the website, so you already have the website. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you're gonna enjoy it. I'm finishing for today. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Thank you.